Let's kick it off, folks. How y'all doing? Hi. Hi. I'm John Latina. I am a continuing lecturer in the Merit Writing program at the University of California, Merced. I've been doing that now for 12 years. So I've been teaching college for 20 some odd years. That's too long, too much time. But for those who don't know, in the last few years, about like 8 years ago, we started revising our general education program, and we did a massive overhaul, and we have this new thing called Spark that came out a few years ago. And 5 years ago, I started teaching a version of it called Dragons Skills IRL, where we study tabletop role-playing games, kind of look at them from a lot of different angles, a lot of different lenses, look at the history, look at the sociological, look at religious, we look at them as literature, we look at them as models, we look at them as statistical models, we look at like whatever the students want to look at, we will look at these things. And one thing I like to do is, it's a good teaching practice, is to kind of build, and it's also it's a good teaching practice, not just for my students, but also for me. I like to go and kind of do these like weekly journals, teaching journals if you want to, but where I kind of recap my class and I kind of talk my way through what went on, what I saw work, what I think could be better or different or such, and share it with you. Take some questions. I love some outside views, and that's kind of where I'm at with it. So let me go and just run through it. And I did this last year in fall 2023 with my class and everything. And a lot of that was in a lead up to going to Big Bad Con in San Francisco, and just going there. I went there to go hang out, play games, run some games, meet people, hang out. It was a game convention. But I also presented with Dr. Emily Friedman from Auburn University, our world-class expert on actual play. My words, not hers. And talk about what we do at the universities, respective institutions, with the topic of tabletop role-playing games and how that's going. And one thing that was eye-opening for me, not just in terms of hearing what Emily had to say, but also in terms of the audience's reaction to my experience. Because my experience working at the University of California, Merced, is unique, as all experiences are, but a lot of people there weren't aware of. And I knew it was out of the norm, but I didn't realize how much out of the norm until I started looking more into it. That I work at a Hispanic serving institution. I also work at Asian American, Pacific Islander serving institution. These are federal designations. So over half our students are Hispanic, like 55%, 57%, it fluctuates. 70% are first generation. We just got through with Wall Street Journal just put out their big thing, and basically UC Merced got ranked #1 for upward mobility. They got ranked as one of the top public university, I think #5 public university in the country, stuff like that. Oh, my dog is like, hey, buddy, come on, you gotta slow down. Come on, you gotta be slowed down, okay? Go right here outside the room, okay? All right. And I work with very like students that are new to the university experience, family-wise, history-wise, stuff like that. And so I'm really and my classes targeted freshmen, so I'm dealing with students that are new. And new students are also at-risk students largely, like they're still kind of getting into it, they're trying to figure it out. The majority of our students at our campus are freshmen. They make up the biggest single block. And my class is a lot about kind of coming into the general purpose of my Spark seminars is to get students understanding what the research institution is, what research can be, how diverse research can be, because it can be very, very diverse. And the different ways we can approach and how we can basically study anything with a little bit of care, a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of insight, caring, etc. We can go pretty far with it. So I am here to talk about what we're doing in my class. Now, once again, the goal of my class is not this kind of like, I need to be this huge monolith of education on tabletop role-playing games. It is introductory, but not introduction to role-playing games, although that does have to play to the topic, but also introductory to the university life and research life. So I use tabletop role-playing games at top. And the reason why I do is because these things, Dungeons & Dragons, Call of Cthulhu, Vampire, whatever game you want to play, I grew up with them. I've been playing them since I was 9 years old. And I never really realized until I was probably in my late 30s, this is how complicated these things are. Not mechanically, not on the page, but just sitting there in the cognitive functions and having them operate several people, what's going on there. And that seemingly deception of the simplicity, I think is really something that my students can kind of, I thought this was something simple. I thought it was something simple. I thought I figured this thing all out. No, we haven't, and that's why we can study it. And this is true of all kinds of stuff around us. And this is kind of a model for us understanding elements. So that's kind of where my class is in a broader framing. Some just misconceptions, some upfront things I have to be really upfront with my students about is that this is not a class where we play games. We have played a game. We maybe play one game, maybe two a semester, but we don't play a lot. The students, I kind of ask them, what do you want to get out of class? I get students that come in and tell me, like, I want to become like the best Dungeons and Dragons player in the world. And so I want to become a great DM. I want to know how to make the best character, all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, we're not doing that. And I kind of start liking it to, like, they're coming to the class, like, they want to come and learn how to be the best Call of Duty player. And I'm like, well, that's not what we're studying, but what we're going to study is how Call of Duty's netcode and back end work to allow the game to function, the game to play, and all the stuff that goes into enabling that. So we're kind of looking at the back end of the games from kind of the outside, not even on the outside, from the in, like really, really deeper inside, more so than most players have. I'm also the advisor at UC Merced of the D&D club, and these people that play it actively. And when I start talking like tabletop role-playing games with them, they have a lot of experience. They have a lot of fun with it. But when I start getting into the nitty-gritty of like the shock of how these things work in terms of like the underpinnings of framing, psychology, cognitive science, oh shit, like, yeah, there's a lot going on here, guys. Like, you guys do. This is a very complicated activity, and we can make it deceptively seem simple. And so I like to kind of lead off with that. So what we do? All right, what we do? Well, let me go ahead and pull up some stuff. I think I might. I'm gonna see if I can share it on here. I'm not sure if I really. Find the damn thing. There it is. Okay, I gotta go find I gotta go through all my stuff here. So I did like I led the class off with a survey, and I can kind of talk about that survey a little bit here. Let me go and pull it up and kind of show you what I did. I'm actually planning. I'm going back to Big Bad College here, and I'm gonna go and talk about. I'm working with Dr. Emily Kugler. I keep on saying Krugler, but it's Kugler, I believe. At Howard, and we're going to do a presentation talking about using tabletop role-playing games as educational tools at underserved for universities that serve underserved populations, right? So Howard's a historically Black university, and so we have that in common. She's also from the Central Valley, which is kind of cool. I didn't know that when I first kind of talked to her. So I looked at her, oh, she's from Clovis, shit. Like, that's cool. But I did this. Where the hell is the survey? There it is. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Well, let me see if I can set this up to share with you guys real quick here. I might have to finagle it a little bit here. What's up? I gotta cut that up a little bit here. Let me move that around so I don't like show you guys everything. I want to keep some stuff a mystery, right? I keep some of it a mystery. Okay. All right. That's pretty good. So this is my survey. And what I did on day one was I introduced the class. Hey, here's the name of the class. Make sure you know the right plays, etc. And then I pulled up and said, here's this survey. Just provide a QR code and a link. I said, take the survey, 5 minutes. And the survey takes honestly, it takes like 3 minutes. And I asked some questions. Question 1. In 1 to 3 sentences, what is Dungeons and Dragons? Now, I can tell you there's some, I could give a pretty complicated answer to that. And I can say it's a typical role-playing game. I can say it's a cultural phenomenon, it's a brand. There's all kinds of answers. Like I could I could offer that. And I was like, very clear to don't look anything up. I don't want you guys looking stuff up. Please just give me raw answers. That's why I only give them three to 4 minutes really to do it. Next question is, on a scale of 1 to 7, 1 being not at all, you don't even know the name, 7 being intricately familiar. I would barely rank myself as a 7, to be frank. Maybe a 6, honestly, but like intricately familiar to me is like a very high end. You're talking about like someone like Peterson or something. Someone like Mercer, I'd probably put a 6. I mean, like these are people that are like high into it. So 7's a pretty extreme result, in my opinion. I had at least, I think between my 3 sections, as I mentioned, I have 3 sections of it, so 30 students each section, so 90 students total. Out of them, I believe I had 4 mark themselves as intricately familiar. And I will say, after the first 2 weeks of class now, as it has been, I have a feeling they would rank themselves lower. They're finding that there's a lot more going on with this topic than they realize. And so I think that's kind of cool. Like, it's kind of interesting. Like some of us really pushing off. The other thing too, about the other end, though, is I do a lot. The majority of students marked 1. And when I say majority, I mean over 50% of the students marked 1. And what's interesting about that to me is that they do actually have familiarity. Like they have, like they've heard the words before. They've seen it on television. Even when I started asking them more questions, they had more to say about it. So I'm a little surprised by that. But I actually have the numbers. I have all the data. I'm hoping to share that at Big Bad Con in the presentation, so we'll go through all that stuff here. But it was good. Let's see here. Have you played Dungeons and Dragons before? About 24% of the class said yes. They had played before. About a quarter of the class, so that's pretty good. Let's see here. Have you played any other games? This was actually the shocking part. I only had, I think it was like maybe 2-3% of the class that they had played other games. I know one class, no one had ever played anything else besides Dungeons and Dragons. So really, there were some interesting kind of limited experiences there, which I'm kind of digging. And then I asked this really fun question that I like to ask people, especially when they have a proclivity saying they know a lot about the topic, is like, what came first, video games or tabletop role-playing games? And 25% of the students said tabletop role-playing games came first. Or sorry, 25% of the students said video games came first, which is the generally accepted answer. I mean, you can get into debates, whatever, how comes first, all this kind of stuff. But if you look at it, like if games like Space War and Pong coming out, Dungeons and Dragons isn't come until 74, but then there's other prior role-playing games like Bronstein and everything, but that's not really around until even then, like maybe like the late, like really late 60s. So we can go back, if we're talking about commercially available, commercially available is pretty easy to track. It's video games coming first. If it's broadly, to me, it's video games as well. So there is some argument you can make for tabletop role-playing games, but they aren't called that. And it'd be something that's not like readily around. And if you look at early video games, they're, basically these guys have oscilloscopes and computer gear. They're screwing around with them and make a game on it, so it's really basic stuff. So there's that kind of element. And then I asked, are you aware of the Satanic Panic in U.S. history? Of that answer, I think the number was like, I have the numbers elsewhere. There you go. I was going to pull it. Let me see if I can find real quick here. I did compile them. Here they are. Yeah, 27% said they are aware of the Satanic Panic. I thought that was interesting. I thought that was really interesting, yeah. Yeah, 10% said they'd played another RPG beforehand. 27% said D&D they played. So it was really interesting. So I'm hoping to go more deep in the data. I have some more information. I'm doing another survey that I'm going through IRB. But this is what I was really interested in this stuff this semester with the students. And something new I tried out. And it wasn't to like sit there and show them they don't know something or another. It's just to show that like we do have a lot of misconceptions of time, especially history. Holy shit, we have a lot of misconceptions about how long stuff was ago and how long we've been doing stuff. I can show people like stuff done on computers in the 60s that people are like, holy hell, I thought we didn't do that till the 90s. No, we were doing it 30 years beforehand. So I'm really curious about that kind of element of it. But tabletop role games are fairly new. They are fairly new. And so we kind of established that. And, I went over a bunch of class policy in setting that up and everything. There are new things this semester is I have a learning assistant. So we have an undergraduate research opportunity center, and I was provided through them someone that wants to know more about how to teach at the university level, and also kind of show how like look at different kind of like mechanisms of research. So they're helping me out. Neobe, I'm hoping to get her on here at some point in the future, but I can't guarantee it. But she's been really, really great and helpful, and she's really fascinated with the topic. She's shocked at how relevant it is. She's a public health major at the school, so she's kind of digging that as well. All right, so what are we doing? Well, let's see here. What am I doing in the class right now? What did we do? Well, I had the students introduce themselves, talk about the questions for me. Some are really excited. Some are a little, drab about it. That's how it goes. It's freshmen. But up front, we are reading Dangerous Games by Dr. Joseph Laycock. We read it every semester. A very good book, I think. I think it's very easy to read. Laycock's a very good author. He lays out everything. He doesn't do a lot of judgments in the book. It's got the true crime elements, which some of the students really enjoy. It lays out enough of a history that we can operate, but it also shows us how the games function. And then, but most importantly for the topic of Spark, which is this idea of learning how research works at a university, is that the book is really interdisciplinary. He is a religious studies person, by all means. But he goes into some psychology, some cognitive science, he goes into sociology, he goes into a little bit of statistical models, a little bit of literary theory stuff. There's a lot going on in that book. And so students can then, criminology, criminal justice, public health, all kinds of stuff. So students can really kind of latch onto something like that and see how diverse the research can go into a topic. And leveraging that is a really key element. And so we use it kind of as a core textbook to get ourselves up to speed, and then we spin out from there. And that's about the first 6-7 weeks of the class. Okay. They're reading the preface and introduction. Most of my students have done it, or they told me they did it. And they're doing little responses, and I have them basically do an approach to the reading like this that goes, hey, take a look at pick up the book, look at the table of contents, just glance at it real quick, ask a question. What is a question you have before you begin reading this, and post it. Share it with the group. So we do forums, we share what we're working on. They ask that question. Then they have to do another post, and after they read it, and that post, and I ask them to say, while you're reading it, keep track of questions, keep track of concerns, keep track of things that are interesting. And afterwards, come up with 3 more questions you have. And also ask this question: was your question answered? Or did you start seeing the answer? And if it is answered, is it answered to a satisfactory degree? If not, let's go keep on reading. Maybe there'll be more in there. Keep pay attention. And by the end of the book, if it's not answered, well then guess what? You can go and pursue that. So it's trying to get them thinking this kind of research mentality. And because these students are coming out of K-12 largely, I actually got one student already identified himself in the class, and I want to say, this is something I miss about working at community college, identified himself as a veteran. He served in the military for a few years. And so he's got a unique point of view, and I'm very interested in hearing that diverse point of view, because I get most of my students are just coming out of K-12. And then that's great, and that's a very diverse set, but it's still I don't know, man. There's something about going out in the world and working for 2-3 years and coming back to school that you get a little different you get a different student, and it's pretty cool. So my favorite students I've ever had were students that were coming back to school. There's some people refer to it as students of non-traditional age. I think my oldest student I've ever had in a class was 68. That was at the community college. The youngest I've ever had is 12. So all the spread. 12-year-old. Well, what's funny about it? I can't remember his real name, but everyone calls him Smitty. And I don't know why they all call him Smitty, but that was the funniest shit in the world. He got his nickname in the first week and a half. All right, Smitty, tell us what the answer is. And he was, and he was just funny. He really enjoyed the nickname, so I started calling him Smitty too. All right, seems cool. I can't remember his name. I remember James. It was something like that. Something very classic, but Smitty. Yeah. So, anyways, so they're reading the preface and introduction, and then they also pose some initial questions about RPGs. I'm actually going to be going over those with them on Monday and or Tuesday, depending on which section they're in. The day 2, we played a game. We played Dungeon Crawl Classics. I used to do a round of Dungeons and Dragons. I'd have 5 or 6 people play it. Each would choose a character, and then we'd play a pretty good session. And I could really ramp it up. Have the town. We have town experience, exploration thing. We have combat towards the end. It's fun. The problem though is I only have 5 or 6 people playing, and so the less of the class is invested, and they have to pay really close attention. And I think there's a consistent thing about just play the damn thing, just play the game. A lot of people will talk about it's just easier to play the game than for me to sit there and explain the rules to you. And so I decided to do that with the whole class. And so I decided to move over to Dungeon Crawl Classics. Now, what's interesting about that was we had this big training opportunity, paid opportunity, which apparently we're still waiting to get paid, but to do this like redesign course type situation. And so I did my Spark seminar, redesigned some elements. And then one of the elements I redesigned was the intro game session. And originally I was just doing the 5 players. That was fine, but people would zone out or not pay attention. And I get it. It's hard to watch. It's hard. I want to watch actual plays, let alone some people play in a room. So I decided to make it more inclusive. And this last year, when my friends started playing Dungeon Crawl Class, we were playing the funnels, which is where each player, you get 5, 6 players, and each player has 4 characters because a lot of them will die. And they're random characters, and they're just like rutabaga farmers and barbers and Wainwrights and like hunters or the baker. I mean, they're just the normal townspeople, so really easy to understand. Nothing like, what's a druid? What's a monk? What's a sorcerer? What can I do exactly? Just people with jobs. You understand that? So I decided, I'm like, all right, well, here's the deal. I'm going to go up and use one of the I think it's Purple Sorcerer is the site. Use his website, generate 100 character sheets for it, because you can do them, and there's quarter sheets. And just everyone gets a random Dungeon Crawl Classics 0 level character. That's it. And it's a rando. You get what you get, and that's it. I did do some filtering on that. I only did humans, so I didn't want to go with the elves, halflings, and dwarves, because I didn't want to deal with like the kind of the explaining those fantasy elements to it. This kind of made it so that the world was fantastical, the players weren't, which is kind of a cool classical approach. And then I also did filter out because it was random. You can't control all the occupations you get, because there's a whole. If you've ever seen it's a D100 table. I did pull out the occupation slaves. I pulled those ones out because I didn't want someone to get slave and get kind of something awkward. I believe I kept an indentured servant, but an indentured servant is not a slave. It's a different type of situation. Although that said, I will say that the slave is one of my favorite starting items, which is the strange rock. Strange rock can be kind of cool in the right situation. So, but we did it. We played a lot of farmers in the group. We had a lot of Wainwrights, a few outlaws. We had a guard that actually lasted a long time. It was pretty good. But yeah, I ran that, and the way I did it was everyone got a character, and then to incentivize the class, I was able to myself purchase, and someone donated through Amazon. You can buy these cheap dice sets, like big old bags of dice. And I said, if you come up and you're an active player in the group, you get a dice set. And then everybody on the way out could get a dice set too if they wanted one. If you just were participating, the whole class participates, everyone gets an extra credit point for this upcoming assignment to reflect on it. And if you guys beat the dungeon, I'll give everyone 2. So kind of just really, really simple incentives. That stuff does add up, but it was kind of fun. And the way I did it was I would pick, I said, all right, which 6 of you guys get your characters? Here's how to read the character sheet. I did a presentation through PowerPoint about how to read the character sheet. I'm really happy with how that went over, because everyone seemed to know how to read the character sheet. That's a really simple quarter sheet. It's a very simple sheet. And said, all right, which 6 of you are the ones taking their first steps into the dungeon? And I ran Portal Under the Stars, which is like super, super short, super simple one. It's the free adventure. They did that, and that's how I did it. And so they could then, what would happen though is they'd come to a situation where they weren't sure how to handle it, and they could ask the rest, hey, someone here in class have an idea? Maybe someone has a character as an idea? Does anyone have this kind of job? When they went up to the first door in that adventure is like this door that has no handle, and it has like little gems on it that look like a star field. It looks like it's like the sky. And they asked, is anyone an astrologer? And no one had the astrologer that session. Then I was like, okay, well, who else would know about the stars? Who else would know about the the kind of scans in the sky. And it took them a second, but I was like, anyone here a farmer? They were like, farmers? Like, yeah, farmers know about the stars. Why would farmers know about the stars? Well, what do farmers need to know about? They need to know about the weather. They need to know about the patterns. Oh, okay. So that kind of stuff is really cool. And yes, I guess this is one of my students, Sneezy Draco. Thank you. Yes, and they negotiated it, and many of the players that had animals used them to bypass the dungeon traps. I too, my group was also guilty of that. And us, we set a chicken loose on the room with a fire blast statue to see how long he would last. And the chicken lasted like 3 rounds. It's pretty good. So, but they kind of negotiated and had fun with it, and then we played through it and had a blast. I kept the action going. People tagged it and out. Some of the characters died. I was very clear about, like, your characters can die very quickly. You are just people. We had fun. Everyone's laughing. There's some parts where the whole class is like hysterics because they think it's hilarious. Some wacky stuff like that. We had a good time. And then my one section, we missed a day of class, so the other 2 sections did it, but we kind of reflect on the class on the session. Say, hey, right, the other day we played the game. What were the elements of the game? What did the game need to function? And that's where the students start seeing, like, okay, this is how complicated this thing is. Oh, it's like really easy to play. Sure, it is easy to play. But what about all the moving parts of it, especially in our minds? And so that's where we start getting the complexities of it and starting to reveal that element of what these games are. Now let's see how they also function. And so we're on that path. And that's their homework this weekend, is to write a little reflection, a little journal about the experience of the game, what their thoughts on it are. And then they're writing their questions about the preface and everything. What's really interesting about where we're at, though, too, and what kind of threw me off this week was yesterday on, is it People Make Games? Quinn, the guy who's Quinn, because I forget his last name. I'm not a I didn't like him for. I mean, I like him more than I used to, but like kind of get into him. But on People Make Games, they did this really cool kind of documentary / like video essay thing, titled "The Games Behind Your Government's Next War," talking about the wargaming community. And I watched it before I went to work. I saw, someone posted it. I think Dr. Friedman posted it. A few people posted it. And I was like, I'll go over to watch. I'm making my breakfast. And I actually watched as long as I could before I had to go to work. And I watched about 45 minutes of it. It's about an hour and a half, I think, hour 15. It's pretty damn good. And so I made it a point to push back another journal and make that the next journal 3. So they're going to watch that and really reflect on it. But 2 of my classes got watched a little bit in class. Watched about half an hour to maybe 35 minutes, 40 minutes. And they were taken aback. And I think that's kind of established this game stuff is not like just fun and games. It can be by all means, but we can also leverage these for a variety of things. So I'm really curious how that's going to go over. So that's something we're working on. We're continuing on Dangerous Games. One of the, I just went and looked at my class. One of the students is actually, I'm starting to have them like think about these. They have to do there's 3 major assignments in the class. The major assignments are presentation 1, the line of inquiry, and then presentation 2. Presentation 1 is they have to do it on an entity. So they have to do it on like basically a game company, a creator, be on a tabletop role-playing game show. They can do it on Geek and Sundry or something like that. I mean, there's some of the shows on there that are oriented towards tabletop role-playing. Most people pick a game. I will say most people pick a game or a company. I get a few people that pick people. And I will say, like, the most popular people are Mike Pondsmith. They can't be Gygax, they can't be Dungeons and Dragons, can't be Wizards of the Coast, can't be TSR. It has to be something outside of that, the mainstay stuff. It's usually Mike Pondsmith, who's fascinating by all stress imagination, or Greg Kostikian, who worked for West End Games and has done a ton of games. So it's kind of cool. in terms of, I'm curious who we're going to get this semester, what kind of games you're interested in. And some people do some awful games. Sometimes they do the classics. I always get like maybe 2 to 3 people doing Vampire or Call of Cthulhu, Chaosium. Try to have diversity in it too, though. And so we're ramping up for that. The main assignment for the back end of the class is a line of inquiry. And so this is the real thrust of Spark in general. Ideally, I will say that some of the instructors don't do it this way, but that's their right, for better or worse, is to have the students develop a research question. Now, they're not going to do the research on this. They're not going to go through and pursue it. They're not going to build it up. But to, like, what's something you're curious about? Okay, what informs that curiosity? Where does your curiosity come from? What did you use to understand and articulate and come to with language to understand and investigate that curiosity? Has something else been done on that curiosity? And then what do you want to know more about? And so that can be either a question about tabletop role-playing games, or it can be using tabletop role-playing games. So, for example, the Quinn's Quest thing is largely about, the question on that is there's quite a few questions there, but like one of the questions is like the ethics of like building these war games for both fun and for usage in we call it a sector because they're British. But there's also this question of they're using these tabletop games for this purpose, for planning and strategy. So like my assistant this semester, she's public health. One of the questions is, are these war games an effective way to train for public health crises? A lot of people will tell you yes, but why? That was kind of the trip in the video. I think even Quinn was mentioning it as he was talking, like these guys will tell you that it works, but they can't tell you why. They can't go fully into why they work. You just kind of have to believe in them to some degree. So it's kind of a trip. It's kind of an interesting kind of mechanism. And then the other presentation is kind of a highlight reel of that line of inquiry. So I'm a big fan. So my background, I studied philosophy at CSU Stanislaus, and I think there was like 15 of us in the major. It was a very small major, and we were all in classes together, but we did not work with each other outside of class really. We hung out sometimes, we talked to each other, but we didn't like do group assignments. We didn't really coordinate. And that was, I look back at that as kind of being detrimental. When I got to UCLA, and then my graduate studies were even worse than that because I was kind of in a thing by myself. I was the only one doing my program at the time at grad school my first time through. So I would be like in lit classes, I'd be in philosophy classes, and like the philosophy people aren't in the lit class, and the lit class people are in my philosophy class. So like I'm, this kind of rogue agent. But when I got to UCLA, man, it was like work together with people. And so we do some group work in class, like on our Monday and Tuesday classes. The students will get together and they will compare their notes about the reading we did, and then I'll ask them each group to come up with 5 collectively takeaways from the readings, the major things that people you need to know this from reading this section. This is important. And then I go section by section and ask each group, okay, give me one of your examples. What's something you got? And then we compile them together and we have a big list on the board, kind of a highlight reel, right? But I also think beyond that, it's also important to be conscientious of what other people in the class are kind of into. What are they studying? And so that's why I do these presentations with the students, because I want them to present about this game or what they're going to study or what their question is, because that way other students can think, oh, that's interesting. That's not too dissimilar from what I'm doing. That's actually kind of pretty close to it. And if it's close to it, what they can then do is like collaborate and they can work together. And I've had students like, hey, can we do group presentation? Can we both go together? I'm like, yeah, that can happen. If your topics are similar enough and they overlap enough and you guys are, trust each other, you can do group presentations. I started doing group writing reports and group presentations in my writing 10 class about a year or so ago, which is our, our highest freshman level writing course, basically, like they get up to speed on like true academic writing and citation, all that kind of stuff, and what kind of expected. And that group presentation went pretty well because that way the students could kind of specialize because their topics would be so big that there's no way. You'd have someone who's like, oh, I'm good at regulations. I'm good at looking at how the architecture of the thing works. I'm good at like understanding what the applications of this thing are. So I like having multiple minds come together to build it. And so we kind of try to do some of that in the class as well. We got that on the horizon, but I'm just trying to keep this together and kind of keep up a little journal for everybody here. I have some speakers lined up for the semester. I don't want to announce them yet because I haven't put them down for dates. I will say, I know one of them spoke to the class last year and loved it, had an absolute blast, and really wanted to come back, was asking to come back, and I'm very eager to have him. The other one's a new person. One works very much in the for-profit world of tabletop role-playing games, and the other person works very much in the non-profit sector. And they both do very different things with similar tools. And I think that's really fascinating. Really fascinating. So that's kind of where I'm at. Otherwise than that, the only other big thing about middle of last semester, actually means spring, I started building the tabletop role-play game library, my student library I have. So I have a set of books in my office for the students to use. And these are role-playing games. They are histories. They are scholarly text. Some are anthologies, some are whole books. A variety of things that students can come and check out and utilize. The one last semester, one of my students did it on, it's funny because she did her first the presentation on the My Little Pony role-playing game and was really intrigued by it. Well, then I ended up like coordinating with Renegade Studios and they like, hey, you want some stuff? Like, yeah, I'll love it. Yeah, thanks so much. They love what my students were, I always kind of try to highlight my student work online. So they reached out to me. I was like, I'll take stuff. Whatever, I'm beggars can't be choosers. I'll take whatever you guys want to say. All right, cool. They sent me a stack of books, including the My Little Pony role-playing game. And so my student was super stoked. She had researched, she had looked at it, but she never had the actual game in her hand. And I'm like, yeah, that's a primary source. I mean, what's the authoritative source on the book about what's in the book? It's the book. So now we have it. So instead of having to go watch actual play or reviews of it or read about it or just download the character sheets and the free elements, she could actually have the whole book and look at it. And she, poured over it and loved it and had a lot of fun with it. And it was very grateful to it. I'm glad she had a blast with that. So that's a really cool thing that we can have happen. And so I'm hoping to leverage that a little bit more this semester with students being able to check out books and use them for the presentations and such. There's a few games I want to get. I really want more Chaosium games right now. And I need to reach out to Chaosium a little bit better, but I'll try to do it a little bit better. But they did it. Modifius did a little bit here. And our latest one was we got, I have it. It's not in here, but I just got it. I don't normally ask for books. But one I really, really wanted, and I knew someone, and I asked him. I knew Greg Tito that was formerly from just left Wizards. Really sweetheart dude, hung out with me at OrcCon, cool as hell. He's been really interested in my class and everything. We had a lot of fun talking. And I was like, hey, look, I've never asked anyone there for anything specific, but I really want the making of the original Dungeons and Dragons, that big chunker book. I got one for myself. I bought my own copy, but I really wanted one for students that have access to it. Yeah, he's all do this. That sounds great. Perfect. I was like, yeah, I'll get you. I got it. He also included a 2024 PHP. Super grateful for all that. So those are both resources right now in the library. The students can check out. I will admit I did bring the player handbook home because I wanted to read it. I do not like reading books on D&D Beyond. They're great for reference. It's a great reference store. It's great to play with. I hate reading on that site. I abhor reading on that site. Sorry, my bell opened. But we're grateful to have it in person, and we're grateful to have it set up. So, anyways, guys, I think that's all I got. Class is going on. I'll be back next week with more of this. Y'all, thank you for coming by, hanging out, and look forward to more D&D Skills IRL. I will see you guys later. Take it easy.